Oscar mistake? The rumor that haunted Marisa Tomei. Can a single Oscar win feel like a lifetime of defending your talent? Marisa Tomei's 1993 Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress wasn't just a career-defining moment. It became one of the most bizarre, whispered-about controversies in Oscar history. Not because of anything she did wrong, but because some people simply couldn't believe she won. The story isn't just about Hollywood politics, it's about comedy being underestimated, women being scrutinized, and a conspiracy theory that refused to die. Let's break it down. It's March 29th, 1993. The 65th Academy Awards. The nominees for Best Supporting Actress are announced. Big names like Vanessa Redgrave, Joan Plowright, Judy Davis. Then Jack Palance opens the envelope and says, "And the Oscar goes to Marisa Tomei, My Cousin Vinny." Shock, polite applause, a few standing ovations, but mostly confusion. My Cousin Vinny was a courtroom comedy. Tomei played Mona Lisa Vito, the brash, sarcastic, hilarious fiancée of Joe Pesci's character. It was a great performance, audiences loved it, but Oscar-worthy? That was the question everyone seemed to be asking in hushed tones. Because the unspoken rule in Hollywood was, comedies don't win acting awards. Especially not loud, regional accented characters played by a then relatively unknown actress. The seed of doubt was planted almost immediately. The moment Jack Palance announced Marisa Tomei's name, it wasn't met with uproar or open skepticism, but there was an unmistakable shift in the room. A quiet disbelief. Not outrage, but that awkward, simmering kind of surprise that lingers just beneath a smile. Within days, whispers turned into murmurs. Entertainment columnists began quoting anonymous sources, insiders, who claimed something had gone wrong. The story was deceptively simple. Jack Palance, either confused, elderly, or distracted, read the wrong name off the card. And the real winner? Supposedly, it was Vanessa Redgrave, a revered veteran of British theatre and film with a far more Oscar-friendly pedigree. Here's where it gets interesting. This theory never came with evidence. Not a single piece of documentation, no official report, no correction from the Academy. And yet, it spread like folklore. It became the kind of rumor that didn't need proof to survive, just repetition. At the center of this narrative was the idea that the Academy, upon realizing the mistake, chose silence over scandal. That no one backstage had the courage or the time to correct Palance on live TV. But for anyone who understands how the Oscars work, this theory doesn't just fall apart, it collapses under its own absurdity. The Academy's voting process is handled with the precision of a bank vault. Ballots are tallied and protected by PricewaterhouseCoopers, whose representatives literally stand on both sides of the stage with briefcases handcuffed to their wrists. If the wrong name is ever read, they're trained to step in immediately. Just as they did in 2017, when La La Land was incorrectly announced as Best Picture. That correction happened in real time, on stage, in front of millions. So if something had truly gone wrong in 1993, it wouldn't have been buried. It would have been corrected on the spot. But the Palance theory had something else on its side. It felt believable. Not because it made logical sense, but because it aligned with the quiet prejudices many people held about what kind of performance was worthy of an Oscar. And so, the rumor lived on, not as a mistake to be fact-checked, but as a cultural echo. A reflection of an industry and an audience that didn't know how to process an unconventional win. It wasn't just an outlandish theory. It was a reflection of who the industry chooses to take seriously. For decades, the Academy Awards have operated under an unwritten rule: gravitas wins gold. If you're crying, dying, or delivering a 3-minute monologue in a dimly lit room, you're Oscar material. But if you're cracking jokes in a courtroom while wearing a floral jumpsuit and talking about tire treads, suddenly, your talent is suspect. Marisa Tomei walked straight into that cultural blind spot. Her role in My Cousin Vinny was loud, expressive, unapologetically feminine, and it was funny. Not just quirky sidekick funny. It was technically sharp, rhythmically timed, emotionally driven comedy. But to some that wasn't enough. Or worse. It was too much. Too brash. Too colorful. Too much like the real women people know in life, but rarely see honored on stage at the Dolby Theater. This wasn't just about comedy being undervalued. It was also about who gets to do comedy. There's a long history of male comedians being celebrated when they pivot to drama. Think Robin Williams, Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, Even when he didn't win, the industry nodded. But for women, especially women whose comedic strength comes from confidence, physicality, or regional identity, that transition isn't applauded, it's resisted. Add in the fact that Tomei was relatively new to the scene, and she didn't fit the mold of the seasoned, serious actress Hollywood loves to reward. There was no tragic backstory, no legacy family name, just raw talent, and that to many felt like a fluke. So when the rumor spread that maybe she wasn't meant to win, it found fertile ground in old assumptions. That women in comedy don't win Oscars, that pretty, funny women definitely don't, and that if they do, it must be a mistake. But the real mistake was believing any of that in the first place. In the face of a rumor that called her very legitimacy into question, Marisa Tomei chose a response most people wouldn't have: silence. Not because she lacked the words, not because she couldn't defend herself, but because speaking out in that moment might have validated a narrative that didn't deserve acknowledgement. She let the work speak. She let the awards sit untouched, unmoved on her shelf, quiet but defiant. For years, she said nothing. While talk show hosts joked, critics theorized, and insiders speculated, Tomei simply kept acting, kept showing up, kept doing the one thing they said she hadn't done: earn it. But silence doesn't mean passivity. In many ways, it was strategic. By not feeding the rumor mill, she refused to turn her Oscar win into a sideshow. She refused to make it about anything other than the performance. Still, behind that composure was pain. When she did finally break her silence in later interviews, she admitted how deeply the rumors had cut. Not just as a performer, but as a human being. It wasn't just an attack on her talent. It was an attack on her identity, her worth, her place in an industry that never fully made space for someone like her. She described the experience as hurtful, yes, but also revealing. The reaction to her win, and the refusal by many to believe it was deserved, laid bare the hidden prejudices of Hollywood. Its reverence for seriousness, its discomfort with women who didn't fit neatly into dramatic stereotypes, and its refusal to see comedy as art. But Tomei didn't crumble. She didn't go away. She didn't overcorrect or rebrand herself to win approval. Instead, she chose to stay the course, building a body of work that over time made the controversy irrelevant. Not through rebuttals, but through undeniable excellence. To truly understand the brilliance of Marisa Tomei's performance, you have to go back, not just to the film itself, but to the context in which it existed. My Cousin Vinny wasn't designed to be Oscar bait. It wasn't a sweeping drama, a war film, or a period piece. It was a fish-out-of-water courtroom comedy, and on paper, it should have been forgotten by awards season. But then comes Mona Lisa Vito, fiery, foul-mouthed, impossibly specific. Tomei doesn't play her for laughs. She plays her like a real person who just happens to be funny. That's where the magic lies. Take her now iconic testimony scene. What could have been a throwaway comedic beat, "Oh look, the ditzy girlfriend knows about cars," becomes something far more layered. Tomei infuses it with confidence, technical precision, and just the right level of controlled chaos. She delivers automotive jargon like a professor, while simultaneously dismantling the prosecution's case and making the judge look like a deer in headlights. It's comedic timing at its finest. Never rushed, never exaggerated, always razor sharp. Every gesture, every beat of silence, every upward inflection is calibrated. The audience isn't just laughing at her, they're in awe of her. The courtroom, the jury, even Joe Pesci's character is watching her in disbelief, and rightfully so. But what really elevates the performance is the emotional grounding beneath the comedy. Mona Lisa isn't just there to crack jokes. She's the emotional center of the story. She's the one who believes in Vinny when no one else does. She wants more from life, she challenges him, and she brings urgency to a plot that could have otherwise collapsed under its own absurdity. You can feel the tension in her voice when she talks about her biological clock, not as a punchline, but as a genuine expression of frustration. And that balance, the ability to shift from comedic delivery to heartfelt sincerity in seconds, is where Tomei sets herself apart. This wasn't slapstick. It wasn't caricature. It was an honest, full-bodied character wrapped in a film that, against all odds, became a legal comedy classic. Her performance didn't just serve the laughs, it anchored the film in reality. And here's the kicker. Without Mona Lisa Vito, My Cousin Vinny doesn't work. She isn't a sidekick, she's the breakthrough. The moment she takes the stand, the entire narrative flips. It becomes clear, she's the one holding the key. She's not comic relief, she's the film's most competent, intelligent voice. So maybe the question shouldn't have been, did she deserve the Oscar? Maybe it should have been, how did anyone else even stand a chance? Since then, Tomei has built a career that quietly silenced the skeptics. She earned 2 more Oscar nominations for In the Bedroom and The Wrestler, both deeply dramatic roles that showed off her range. She's been a Marvel mom, a romantic lead, a dramatic powerhouse, a stage performer. She's never chased the spotlight, but it keeps finding her anyway. And yet, the shadow of that first Oscar still looms. In many ways, it reveals more about the industry than it ever did about her. Because if the Academy and the public couldn't immediately accept that a comedic performance by a woman could be award-worthy, maybe the mistake wasn't in reading her name. Maybe the mistake was in what people thought an Oscar should look like. If this story made you think twice about how we treat women in Hollywood, or how quick we are to question someone's success when they don't fit the mold, then you're exactly the kind of viewer we love having here. Make sure to like this video if you found it interesting. Hit subscribe so you never miss out on another deep dive into pop culture's strangest corners. And check out the other videos on the channel for more unexpected stories from behind the curtain. And don't forget to check the description. We've got links to even more content and a free newsletter you need to be reading if you want to use AI like a pro in your creative work.